Our sponsors for this episode are Anderson Retail Liquor, located at 1411 North Main in Newton. That's 1411 North Main in Newton. Open 7 days a week, Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m., Friday and Saturday, 9 to 11, and Sundays from 12 to 8. You can also give them a call at 316-283-4432. That's 316-283-4432. Stop in and check them out. Is your AC or heating system just not keeping up? Maybe it's not keeping your home or business as cold or hot as it once did. It could also be that all you're looking for is a reliable, trustworthy, and affordable technician to check on your system and do whatever maintenance necessary to ensure it's working as efficiently and effectively as possible. If so, give Air Quality Control a call at 316-285-3304. That's Air Quality Control, 316-285-3304 for all your air quality control needs. Shelter Insurance. Bradley Cook with Shelter Insurance is located at 227 West Broadway Street. That's 227 West Broadway Street in Newton, Kansas. You can give them a call at 316-283-4241. That's 316-283-4241. Bradley Cook. Bradley serving Newton, Kansas and surrounding areas. Well, hello, everybody, and hello, Andy and Chad. How was your guys' week this week?
What's up, guys?
I'm tired of being cold.
Sick and tired of being sick and tired.
No. Don't get me wrong. I'm just tired of being cold. We're going on week 3 of this ice, snow, garbage on the road, on the yard and everywhere, and it needs to say goodbye.
Yeah. So you're dreaming of warmer days and summer temps, are you?
All I need is 50 degrees for like 3 or 4 days and I'm good. But
will 40
we gotta have
to 45
something.
degrees work for you, Chad? Because we do have that coming up in the forecast.
With this stuff, probably not.
Nothing is melting. It's just staying there. It's melting a little bit and then it's turning into a sheet of ice. So
yeah, I'm dreaming of the day I walk out my front door and I hear the Wicked Witch of the West going, "I'm melting, I'm melting,"
or see that nice green lush grass.
Yes.
Hey, I tell you this: we won't have a lot of bugs this summer. Look forward to that because we've had such a cold temperature. Where we should have an easy year when it comes to the bugs over summertime. Andy, are you thinking bugs and green grass and sunny temperatures and sunburns and
I'm thinking
cool days?
Got a lot of work to do and business has got us puckering a little bit, but hey, this is the roller coaster we ride. So no, I'm good, man. It's another day, another opportunity. I was on the phone earlier right before I got in with you guys and just learning about projections and what everything's going to look like over the next few months, because that's what we're playing right now is we got to get these next few months organized and figured out quick. But no, things are good. Busy. Kids are in basketball, so that's fun. And I will agree with Chad. This little dusting we got the other day after I had raked and pushed and got all my main areas kind of pushed off, and I was like, messing up my stuff, man. Messing up my stuff. Go away already. And you look at the temperatures and you're like, this is going to hang around for a minute. Usually we don't have the hang around.
That's right.
And the hang around has been annoying. So, and that ice is super threatening to a lot of my older folk friends that have to go to their mailboxes and do the things they got to do. Because when you get that ice packed underneath there and it starts freezing at night, that's a scary thing, man.
Yeah, and then when it snows a little bit, you can't
that
see
stuff
where the
gets
ice is
rock hard.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Rock. It is nuts.
So
I grew up with this garbage. There's a reason that I came here.
So I'm a big boy. I'm 260 right now, unfortunately. And so to your point, Chad, I have to walk to a sign yesterday. I thought I'm going to go out there and we lost cellular connection, so I need to go out there and connect to it to get it back on so my client can manage it remotely. So I'm like, I'm just going to go knock it out real quick. Hopefully it's a quick little fix where I can go up there with my laptop and do my magic and make it happen. I go out there and, there's a ditch by the sign and I had to park to go down to get over to the sign. I'm thinking I'm 260 and I had my work boots on. but the doggone thing would not smash. It just let me walk right over the top of it. It was so hard.
Yeah.
Frozen solid.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
It was the craziest thing.
about 2 weeks ago, I took my son sledding at the sledding hill. And when we went, we had about 3 days of almost thawing and then freezing back. We get out there and everything is packed down. He's like, man, Dad, why wouldn't you let me put cooking oil on the bottom of my sled? And I look at him and this is what came out of my mouth. I said, listen, Clark, you don't need it. This right here, you are going to fly. Absolutely. I mean, you are absolutely going to fly.
What does he weigh right now, probably?
This kid, maybe 80 pounds.
Oh,
I
man.
mean,
So he's a
little guy. And, you know, he was cooking down those hills. And then you got me at nearly 200. And once I get going, I'm cooking down that hill. And then the day after, he wanted to go out there with his brother. His brother is 103, 104. And first time down the hill. And I told him not to. Told him not to. God's honest truth. He decides to head down east on that Centennial Park Hill towards the road.
He was up in the road, wasn't he?
No, he didn't fly high enough to get up on the road. But he did hit the other side of the ditch. Airborne.
Ouch.
And hurt his back pretty good.
So did he try to spill before he got there and just chunked him?
No, he just... It was something else.
You and imagine seeing that coming, there's nothing you can do.
He did a 180 in midair, and he hit that ditch just full on and with his back.
My brain would do something like this: embrace for impact.
I'm remembering those times. I'd be like, well, told you not to.
Yeah, it's like, I think we need to go this way, guys. But yeah, that's the environment that we're in right now that I'm just kind of tired of.
We're having Alaska-style type temperatures. Okay, so just before we get into anything here, I want to go ahead and do what I promised I would do and pick out the top topics that we're going to try to talk about. We're going to cover some legislative updates that I've done very briefly. MLK and Bethel College, KU research and wind energy not being a red-blue issue. California fires catastrophe, attention span of consumers. TikTok or not to TikTok. The power of the pen, dictatorships versus democracy, and the Trump inauguration speech. So before I get into that, I want to do local news, but there was something locally that I wanted to maybe steal your thunder on. I want to send a shout out to some local youth in our community in Harvey County here that are exceeding and surpassing expectations, if you want to call it that. They're doing some extraordinary things. I'd like to send a shout out to the two state 5A speaker debate champions, Riley and Vaden. Congratulations, number one. Sedgwick Cardinals debate 3-1 state runner-up champions, second place, was Morgan Olinger and Aiden Roseberry. Great job to be number one, to be number two in the state. That is amazing. Those are more titles we're bringing back to Harvey County. We just appreciate you for that and making us look good across the state. Lucas Kaufman took first place at the Tournament of Champions for 126-pound weight. So congratulations, Lucas Kaufman, and keep pushing it. I've known you for a long time, and he affectionately calls me Uncle Lance. so
hey, I want to say this about Lucas.
And I think he's giving me, bees, but because we're not related, but maybe.
So I want to say this about Lucas. I went over to the finals. Two reasons. Number one, I wanted to watch Lucas because he was in the finals. He was the only kid from Newton that made it. And number two, because my kid volunteered during the tournament. Hopefully next year he'll get to wrestle in it. But I was really looking forward to seeing that Lucas Kaufman match because what we were going to have on the mat were 2 former state champions at different weight classes. So I was like, man, this is going to be good. It wasn't good. Lucas pretty much kicked the kid's butt. So, good job, buddy.
Yeah, and then you mentioned something about the potential for him to even possibly be after this.
In my mind, he should be ranked number 1 in the state.
Okay.
And that's because he has been beating the cream of the crop. And this kid from Valley Center is no slouch. And Lucas beat him in the first week of the season. And if my memory is fuzzy, but if I'm remembering right, I think that kid was the preseason number 1. And Lucas beat him that first week of the season, and then the margin of victory got bigger when you look at the TOC. So,
very good job, Lucas.
Attaboy.
Good job. Good job to the youth in our community. If I'm leaving anybody out who's doing exceptional, extraordinary things, please just send us a message, and we want to put you out on the program and just give you a thumbs up and say we really appreciate all the hard work and effort that you do. We do. We know that it takes a lot to accomplish the things that you're accomplishing. It doesn't happen because you just get lucky. It is every day working hard, tough for years to be able to get to the place that you're going to get.
And since we're talking about kids doing great things, I want to give a shout to Bueller, not Ferris. The Bueller Middle School Scholars Bowl team. Because the sportsmanship that I witnessed deserves an award. Those kids are phenomenal. What I witnessed was they started their last match of the day at Chisholm Middle School against Chisholm Middle School. And I mean, there was nothing out of the ordinary. At least nobody thought so. But, first question comes, and they're not even done with the question, and the kid's buzzing in, and she's giving the answer, and she's like, that sounded familiar. They started reading the second question, and she buzzed right away, and she goes, we have had these questions before. Under no obligation to do so. She, that team could have just sat there and
killed it.
Yeah, they could have run the table. They could have mopped the floor. And then about 3 questions later, okay, so then they went and got a new set of questions and started all over. And about 3 or 4 questions later, ding, we had this as a tiebreaker in round 2. I'm telling you, that's showing
honesty.
some.
Wow,
Yeah, that's
good for them.
Honesty.
And
Yeah,
that girl, and I don't know the girl's name, but that girl sat there and she goes, I just want this to be fair.
Yeah.
Kudos to you. It doesn't exist, but you guys get the Newton Kansan Sportsmanship Award.
It needs to exist.
Yeah.
Let's make it exist.
Let's make it exist.
It needs to exist.
So it
heard it right here. Here's this.
It's the first.
Do it this way.
The first ever in the history of the world.
In the history of the world, and specifically Kansas and Harvey County, here on the HCTalk program, Chad Fry, the Newton Kansan guy, has now delegated a once a month award for
no, it's more like once a year.
Because
I'm not going to be able to watch Scholars Bowl very often.
I love it.
But I'll just say that Bueller gets the Newton Kansan Sportsmanship Award from the Chisholm Middle School Scholars Bowl event. Last
you know
week.
what? I would implore you, Chad, to do something.
Should I make a certificate and mail it to the school?
Well, I think it deserves an article.
We'll get her a $25 gift card with your certificate, and let's make it happen.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's do it.
I'm good.
Cool.
Buy them pizza one day, type of thing to reward them. I mean, honestly, it's integrity goes a long way with me. And I tell you, in a world where the end justifies the means and integrity and character seem to go by the wayside because, well, I'm trying to get to this specific goal, and if it means that I've got to walk all over anybody, lie, cheat, steal, be dishonest to do it, then whatever, as long as I'm a winner, number one. Okay, so talk about the I'm sure somebody would clip that. while we're talking about clipping everything, this is what Lance thinks. That's going to be headline. Lance thinks this about competition, and then they're going to clip what I have to say, and so whatever. Watch the whole program. But anywho, covering legislative updates, just real quick before we get into the other topics, and I really I pass it over to Chad about any other local news that he'd like to talk about. We're doing legislative updates this year on the HCTalk program. You might see some other updates come across. So Newton Area Chamber of Commerce, we're supposed to do an update bi-weekly. The legislative update with Senator Owens is going to be on a bi-weekly basis. Representative Avery Anderson is going to be on a bi-weekly basis. We've got City Commissioner Rod Cry who's going to come on the program and do an update every couple weeks, and that's more of an informal my office to their office type of a situation. But we're putting this information out there, folks, so if you want to be informed, there's the opportunity to be informed. I mean, you can't make it any more simple than just to be able to turn on something, and you don't got to watch it. If you don't want to see my face on there or whoever's face on there, just listen. Just listen to be informed. It's just an information session. That's all it is. That's all it is. And if you want to hear the least amount of Lance's opinion that you could possibly hear, then those are the times to get it done. Because I'm not giving my opinion. I'm not debating anybody. I'm not giving my 2 cents. That's saved for this program. So if you wonder why there's a few different formats, like the Harvey County Talk with somebody, it's not opinionated. It's just a meet and greet with somebody that's doing amazing things. Legislative update is simply just reaching out and having these individuals come on the program or any kind of an update we do. And then if you want the spicy stuff where you get my opinion, Andy's opinion, and Chad's opinion, no holds bar action, then watch the HC Talk program. Okay, so local news, Chad, what do you got for us? Anything that I didn't cover that you want to cover as far as local news is concerned before we get into the spices?
Boy, I don't know. One of the things that's going to be coming to a head, I think, in short order, is this sinkhole out on Osage Road, which is between Harvey and Marion County. And the reason it's going to start coming to a head is that there are people that are starting to make decisions that need to get made. For example, we finally found out that Marion County has no interest in having that road be reduced to a minimum maintenance road. That ties everybody's hands in Harvey County. It is a township road, and that is going to become problematic because the township, quite honestly, does not have the money to fix this thing. And that's basically what they've been trying to impress upon our county commission now for 10 months.
Wow. It's been a long.
It was in May of last year. It was in May, so seven months. 7 months.
Yeah,
we're at 7 months on trying to figure out what to do about this.
We don't want to spend any money. If that's your goal and that's your political propaganda you try to put out here.
But it runs deeper than that, right? So I mean, the township honestly does not have. This is a budget killer. This is a budget destroyer. Okay,
the township. I'm all about not spending money when you don't have to, but there's times when things happen, like water heater goes out. You don't have it in your budget, but you got to have the water, man. You just got some things you got to learn to separate.
Got to figure out how to
apples
do
and
it.
oranges instead of be so locked into some.
Even if it means even if it does mean that you go borrow the money.
Can you not fix it though? Or can you not fix it?
You can not fix it.
And then what is the risk?
See,
so then you have to go through the process.
Yeah.
There's
is
all
somebody going to die
of,
if I don't fix this? And if somebody can hit it with a car or something like that, then your choices come off the table.
Yeah.
Because then is that going to be worth the lawsuits and everything else that arise for the situation because you didn't do your part in whatever your sector is?
Well, I'm going to say this with our incoming county commission, and I don't mean to be so critical of this, but the writing's on the wall.
Yes, you do.
Well, hey, I followed it. I'm just going to say this: the writing's on the wall.
Just put it
They're
out
going to
there.
do whatever
Come
they
on.
can to try to not spend money.
Well, that's okay
And that
to a certain
means-
extent.
To a certain extent, but that means that we as a county are not going to see things taken care of that need to be taken care of for the people.
Well,
Because
let's give it time. Let's give it time.
Let's see.
In this case, it is not the county's responsibility.
Understood, Chad. But the
the
county
township needs help.
But here's this.
But yes, the
Okay.
township does need help desperately.
And here's the weeds on this. Okay, the weeds are that normally speaking, the county does not pay for what the township is supposed to be paying for. But the county can come in, fix it, and then bill the township for it and make sure the township can figure it out. And the county doesn't want to get into a situation where they pay for the township road, because then that means, well, then we're responsible for paying all of the township roads, or could quite
that's another interesting
be.
angle. Is there a legal situation that the county gets in for helping the township, and what does that reach to look like?
Well,
what is the veil on that?
It's almost
there's a lot there that I could see working, and I'm not in those shoes, so I get not spending money until you have to a certain extent on certain things, but hopefully they're weighing everything out and they're looking at all the stuff, and again, the legalities, the practicalities, the expectations from other groups that are around them, what they didn't do for somebody else. Can they catch a lawsuit in that way? And there's a lot that can happen
They
when
can
you're in that
even
decision
catch
making.
a lawsuit here if they fix it and it fails.
100%.
Yeah.
So, it's...
So you got to weigh those
this
scales.
Is in the land of sticky wickets. This is one of the stickiest.
Here's one thing I'll say real quick. Having unfortunately, being in a position where you have to make decisions knowing the public will only know 30 or 40% of the information, and sometimes less than that, you just got to move on. There's nothing you can do about it. The thing is having people in the back end that understand and have experience weighing these types of decisions from all those angles, and not just going off of feelings and emotions or a commitment they made to somebody that makes no sense to the decision that's in front of them.
That's why you don't make political campaign promises. You can't.
You won't catch me doing it.
So right now, that's kind of the top thing locally.
Tell me when.
Is that going to be in an upcoming?
Yeah, there's supposed to be something popping up on the website today and in print tomorrow. Just kind of a summary of the conversation that was had at the county commission this week, which kind of just lays out what we just talked about. It's just the county is sitting there saying this isn't our responsibility, and they're right. And the township is going, we can't pay for it. We don't have the money. This isn't just an inconvenience on our budget. This is actual destruction. It's gonna cost more than they can generate. And you know what? They're right. That's just the way it is. So where do we go from here?
You got to ask the aliens to go back in there to fill that gap so it didn't fall in on where they were sleeping for 1,000 years.
Well, they've come out now. Yeah, that's true. It's the aliens, Andy.
They took off to Jersey so fast we didn't even see them.
Yep.
That's where one of those drones flew out of. Yeah.
And the cold hard truth of the whole matter is,
Chapo had a stash there and it just boom.
We're going to have to change the name of this program to Fantasy and Entertainment.
Yeah, there you go. So the cold hard truth of this particular problem is that water is going to do what it wants to do.
Absolutely.
And the county has been slowly being taught that lesson out at West Park, because at some point they're going to lose the main road in and out of West Park. Because water decides, hey, I think I want to go over there instead of stay here. And it's the same thing going out on Osage Road.
And it just erodes it out.
And that's part of the reason nobody really knows what this thing's going to cost. They just know it's going to be extremely expensive.
Yeah. Okay, Chad, you got anything else that's local?
Call Hennis Excavation. They can hook you up.
Yeah, they can do it.
They're good.
Any job. No job too tall. No job. No, wait.
Lauren, wait, come on, bro. Hook it up.
I got anything else? Amazingly, attendance at Trapper's Rendezvous was down this year.
Okay.
Just saying,
why would that be the case? I mean, it's only like negative 20.
But they are now planning a second annual winter camp out for February as well. Which,
I may or may not know somebody who had a rick of wood dumped at the site for their campers.
Yeah,
the diehard guy we know in the family.
Yeah. He's like, I'm just gonna have wood delivered. I was like, you had it delivered? He was like, I had it delivered. We ain't playing.
Everything.
I was like, whoa, you're gonna be all right.
Yeah, they were fine, but I think the days of 9,000 scouts are behind us. It's just a cold hard reality. You see what I did there?
Yeah.
but yeah.
No
gosh.
pun intended.
Next
No pun
question.
intended. Okay, so I got something that I want you to focus in on, Chad. I was reading Newton Kansan. It was January 20th, and it talked about MLK and Bethel College.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
And I had no idea. Guess I'm not a connoisseur of all things local. Don't know everything, obviously. I'll just admit it.
Boo.
But I don't even want you to believe that I know everything that there is to know local. But I didn't know, and I think it's kind of amazing, to be real honest with you, that MLK himself came to Newton, North Newton, Kansas, America, and gave a speech
Yes, he did.
at Bethel College.
Yes, he did. He gave that speech on January 21st of 1960. He also granted the Newton Kansan an interview while he was here. I didn't know about the interview until just a couple years ago. I knew that he had spoke there, and I knew it because during one of my shooting hoop sessions in a shot that went horribly wrong, I found a plaque on the backside of the stage
It
denoting
went that bad?
Yeah, it went that bad. But yeah, so there was a plaque on the backside of the stage that noted that he had spoken there. And Bethel College, off and on, has promoted that fact. Again, off and on. I kind of thought this would be a great year to really go after that, since it's an anniversary year, but I just think differently than some other people, I think. But yeah, and there is one known recording was found. It was found in a barn, believe it or not. So a guy who was a student
Do we
back
have
in
access to
1960. It's at the Mennonite Library and
that? I'd
Archives.
love to see if somebody can clean that up.
Recorded.
Because
Over
nowadays
recorded,
you
yeah.
could really
Yeah.
revive some stuff.
Yeah. It's at it's currently sitting in the archives.
That's
up at,
really
up
cool.
at Bethel College. And so yes, if you want to hear it, you can go there to hear it.
Cool.
And
Maybe
part of
give me an
the
idea.
Now,
Part
you
of the
record it,
difficulty-
bring it back, make copies,
You should
sell
be
it.
able to not sell it, not for
Why not?
keep in mind, Andrew, that the Martin Luther King estate owns the copyright of that speech.
Boo.
Oh,
I'll call
copyright.
his daughter, hey, yo.
Yo,
So
Just
and
one-
that
let's
would
make
be
a
why
deal,
they
Let's make a
haven't
deal.
posted it
Real
online.
quick, since we're on MLK, you think Trump's really going to release the documents?
oh, I would hope to God he does.
So you hope yes. What do you think?
Honestly, I don't care about the MLK documents. I care about the JFK.
I care about both. I think they
Yeah.
had a hand. I think the government had a hand in MLK as well.
I think
I'll
they
put
did.
it. I'll
I
put
think
it
they
to you
did.
this way. I'll put it to you this way. If I could only get one,
You would get that
I
one.
want JFK.
That was a hard one for me, but yeah, because MLK, I would want to understand. Times were different at that time, and what they were trying to suppress. But that goes to show they were trying to suppress things in the 60s.
Oh heck yeah!
So we think they haven't mastered their craft even better now today. Just a little thing, but we'll get further. But anyways.
Conspiracy theorists.
Yes.
Okay.
That's my lane.
Next on the list is was reading something that was in the Kansan again, and it was headline: KU research suggests wind power isn't a red versus blue issue in Kansas. And I think if you,
It's a common sense issue, though.
well, and let's go here. I mean, when people want to make something political, and what this article alludes to is that maybe it goes a little bit deeper than that. Maybe it's not necessarily all political. Maybe there's people on the red side, if you want to look at it that way, that are for wind energy, and you have people on the blue side that are against wind energy. And so it's not a cold hard fact to say that if you're a Republican, you are against wind energy, or if you're a Democrat, you're for wind energy. It really is one of these hot button topics. It even goes through to talk
It
about
is.
some statistics,
Yes.
and about like what areas are more likely to put moratoriums on. And I don't know. I mean, we've talked about bans and moratoriums and the difference between the two and everything. We've got into this play on words about whether it's a ban or not a ban, or whether it's moratorium. In this, the wording specifically says moratorium. So Harvey County, amongst some other what they would consider densely populated counties, have moratoriums, and their county was more active in this process. And they think that, generally speaking, it probably has to do with the populace and the density of population per land and where you can actually put them up versus whether it's conducive to do so. And then it talks about how there are a tremendous amount of what would be considered dyed-in-the-wool 90%, 95% voting Republican counties in rural areas that look at as though it is a great opportunity to be able to exercise their personal property rights, be able to get some finances coming their way based upon what they're leasing their land for and who they're leasing their land with. So Chad or Andy, weigh in on that. But that's the overall. Would you say that's the overall true representation of what that article was talking about?
Okay. What this is exposing is a political issue that is not a partisan issue.
Good clarification.
Right?
Yeah, 100%.
There's no question that this is political. But it is not. I mean, you can debate all day long if you want, but it's not a partisan issue. Now, in our local debate, do I think it fell along partisan lines? Very much so. When I say that because it was along partisan lines based for in those who were vocal about the issue.
The loud minority.
But, well,
I think,
and I did see a few.
I'll try to keep it short.
I did see a few what we can call strange bedfellows on this one, but by and large,
sounds like fleas.
Yeah,
like bed bugs.
Bedbugs.
I got some thoughts. I mean, I've spent about an hour listening to pros, an hour listening to con debates online, and I spent about an hour and a half on each side, pros and cons, and then I had about 2 or 3 hours of conversations. This is over many months, right? So not extreme. I'm not real brushed up, but I think for me it came down to, would people buy them without the subsidies?
Now you're taking it from a local to a state to a national.
Yeah, but that's the bottom line though.
Yeah.
For me, it's okay. Bottom line, would I buy it, a windmill, for energy if it was coming out of my pocket? And the answer is no. And is it environmentally friendly when you go through the whole process from life to death of one of these deals? And the answer is no. It doesn't produce more than it takes to make it. Now, are there individual things that it could help with for a short period of time as we innovate other energies? Absolutely. But I'm from the mindset of, if it wasn't for the subsidies, people wouldn't buy it, so why would you do it? That's kind of where I'm at with the whole deal. It's like, it doesn't make sense to me.
Again. Big government subsidies.
It just doesn't make sense.
I'll tell you why
If you
I
could
would.
pencil it out, without support and help from the government, unless there was some real benefit that they're saying it's benefit for that doesn't line up. Again, there's a lot of things that just don't line up. I don't think it's a Democrat or Republican thing. I just think it's an individual thing, and that's what it turned into.
Individual thing.
Which to me is ridiculous. Like, why are you making that? But everything is made political today.
Oh yes,
and there's no sensibility to these arguments because it becomes your bread, you're wearing that shirt. So let's not have this conversation. Let's have all the other conversations where you can't get to the root of the problem. And individuality, there are some cases where maybe it makes sense, but in my mind's eye, it doesn't pan out for me.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just
So where I was at through the whole process was at some point we absolutely have to transition away from fossil fuel.
100%.
It has to.
But we also have to know it's a 20 to 30 year curve, and it takes time, and you have to play with things.
Yes. And so that's why I was like, a lot of things about the whole wind energy industry do not make sense. But is it, or can it be, a stepping stone to something that does?
And
make
it has
sense?
been. We learned a lot.
Right.
And it was part of the exercise.
So that's kind of where I was
Looks
at.
good on paper. When you push it out there, not so good.
Yeah.
And I'm still right there with, we have to transition away from fossil fuels.
100% agree.
You know, depending on what projections you believe, we maybe have 50 years left. That car I drove here today has 50
They're
years
saying
left.
20 to 30 solid with
Yeah.
the information. That's pretty, I mean, it's pretty on point. So we do need to move, but we're not quite frantic yet because we do have things in the pipeline that are working that way. And, you know, let's get into some conspiracies about what. No, I'm just joking.
Oh, I was going to say.
Hear about the first water car guy?
How about Tesla?
I mean, you know, that's not the only resource that we here in Kansas need to have our eye on. But it is
Water.
definitely, water is huge.
Yep.
The Ogallala's got about 25 years on it.
Yep.
If that's if we have government. Okay, here we go. That's if we have government regulation
Boom, boom.
stopping individuals from just pumping baby pump, which leads me to the drill baby drill.
Oh,
but
man, here we go.
we're gonna get into that here in a second. So I'm gonna
Dang,
brush
we're gonna
over a
start
couple
getting
things.
ugly.
Okay, I'm gonna brush over a
Remember,
couple
we're
things.
friends.
I said we all laugh like that's BS. Like, yeah, we're all friends.
Oh, we know we're about to start fighting. That's why. There's no way we all could line up on this one.
Roll up my sleeves.
Okay, so
Let me stretch.
I'm going to brush over some stuff real fast that I promised last week we would cover. Fires are still going in California. Article from BBC News Los Angeles, Crystal Hayes. The headline is Power Lines, Hikers, Arson, What Might Have Sparked LA's Devastating Fires. Interestingly enough, there are areas where they have isolated down to where they believe the fires have started, and so they're doing investigations there. It is a criminal investigation. What started them? I guess we could all ask that question. What is it? What is it? Chad, what do you think it is? Do you think it's a multiple things? Do you think it's just one thing? I mean, could it be? I mean, you can even ask, who is to blame here? And I know we all want to blame somebody for something, but these were some catastrophic events here.
This is so you ask where I'm at. Here's where I'm at. Now's not the time for laying of blame. Now is the time for putting out a fire.
And to investigate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Begin investigations.
Yeah. But, you know, job one is to get that sucker out.
Yeah.
Job two is to figure out how it started. And I would be shocked if we didn't find out there were multiple sources.
But it wouldn't that be, and we will find out. We will find out.
And I would
We'll
be
find out.
shocked if we didn't find out there was some illegal activity.
Yeah, yeah. And then just saying this as we're going to brush over this real quick here, and we'll cover this later on at some point in time, I'm sure, when more information comes out about why they believe or what their investigation proves to be this. But 28 people have died, and almost looks to me like 40,000 acres have burned. And that's not, I mean, it's just unbelievable the amount of area, square miles that has just been obliterated. It's been likened to, looks like a nuclear bomb's gone off. But I want to go to another thing and just real quick, like, okay, all I can think about right now is attention of the consumer. And it is that we just recently had a very bad hurricane season, complete decimation of certain areas. Everybody done forgot about that. The fires aren't even done burning yet. Everybody's pretty much forgot about that. We've moved on to something else. So where is our attention span as consumers and individuals, even when there's something? I mean, how many people are still talking about the 2 attempted assassination attempts on now 47th president, but former? I mean, what is it? Chad, you're the media guy, so I guess I'll ask you directly, but I want to cover a few more things on the program before we run out of time. It's just, where are we at? We are a headline-driven, 30-second attention span society, and once we've read it, it's gone, we've consumed it, we're on to the next catastrophe.
I had a great word and I lost it.
Take your time.
But
Was it rambunctious?
no.
Was it rolling around in there?
But we have media fatigue. Okay? We've had this going for a really, really long time. And when I experienced it the most intensely was during the shootings in Heston. The entire blasted world descended upon Heston, Kansas. You know, I never dreamed that I would be in a press conference and CNN would be 2 spots down and Fox News would be 1 spot down and the BBC would be right here on my left. That's a pretty, for a guy like me, that's a pretty intense, that right there is an intense experience. But so they came from everywhere. And the coverage was nonstop. And nonstop. And nonstop. And I remember quite well walking into the Kansan office after yet another something that I had to go cover. And the reason I had to go cover, and understand, every person that was on the Kansan team that week, I love them all. They are great human beings. But every one of them was ridiculously green, and I just didn't feel like I could throw them into that pond. Okay? They hadn't been in the game very long. And I just felt like they were just going to get swallowed up. I felt like I was getting swallowed up. And I walked into the Kansan office and I looked around at those people and I said, we're done. I'm going to write our last story. We're done. And one of those persons, because I always gave them the freedom to do so, questioned my judgment. And I looked around the room and I said, understand, people get tired of this. The people of Heston don't want us anymore. They're done. And we're their local media. We need to listen. They're done. So we're not going to drag them through anymore. We'll let the BBC do that if they think they're not done yet. And I believe it was Kelly Breckenridge who looked at me and he said, they're just waiting for the next crisis, and as soon as they get it, they're gone. Okay? He said, if it had happened yesterday, they'd have been gone yesterday. But it hasn't happened yet. And as soon as it does, they're gone. I was like, yeah. And I don't know what the next crisis was, but it was about 2 days after I said, we are done. This is the last thing we're doing. They were all gone. So we have media fatigue, and it's because the big media outlets run from crisis to crisis to crisis.
Ratings.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of ratings and what's coming on, and not to change the subject to move, but I wanna combine the fact that many people, I believe today, look to social media for the majority of information they consume, i.e. news related, right? There are algorithms that put clickbait and rage bait. We've talked about that. We've talked about brain rot, et cetera, but to TikTok or not to TikTok, gentlemen, because where it is right now, all right, and I know TikTok users. I'm not one, not for any reason or another. I just don't need another app to spend more time on to look at the same information and consume the same exact information. Plus, I don't want the Chinese to data mine me, but they already data mine me because they've created the chip that's in my phone. So anyway, whatever the case may be, we're not going to get into that conspiracy stuff. But
oh, come on.
So far, I guess from what's happened here is the ban has gone into effect with TikTok. But because of some words that were spoken by now President Donald Trump a day before he took office, they decided to go ahead and resume their app. But you can't actually look the app up if you were not a user previously.
You
download
cannot
the application.
Download it
That's
as
correct.
a new user.
But if
Correct.
you were a previous user, your TikTok is back. So no need to fret. No need to fear. TikTok is here. Okay, so moving on. Okay.
You did that just for
You-
TikTok.
I
We're
did,
gonna
I
launch
did.
a TikTok channel, aren't we?
We are open to advertising dollars.
Okay,
That was an ad for the Satine.
Okay, so just to move on to the two things, okay, and we can rest where we want to rest on either one of these, but the two things that I want to sum up we've got about 10 minutes left on the program. We can go a little bit long if we need to, but there's two things that I wanted to talk about, and one was the Trump inauguration. Okay, the speech that he gave, I listened to it 5 times. And the reason why I listened to it 5 times is because I didn't want to come on here and not be an informed person if there was something that you guys had that you wanted to pick out. And then I'm just sitting here going, oh man, I don't remember hearing that. Okay. But the other one is executive orders, man. I got to hit this up again and again and again and again and again. All right. I do not believe that executive orders that were allowable in the Constitution had any idea whatsoever that today we'd be seeing what we're seeing. Okay? Literally, what I'm going to say this, and people can be mad at me, whatever they want to be mad at me for, but I believe, in my opinion, that the Biden administration, or that President Biden himself, has used the power of executive action to ensure that anybody that was involved in any nefariousness could have been involved in any nefariousness, if any corruption, anything whatsoever, doing underhanded, behind the scenes, lying, cheating, stealing, whatever they got to do, manipulation of whatever. Now that the tide has turned, there's somebody else there. There's potential for consequences to arise. Well, I'll buy executive authority, grant clemency, or pardon, or commutation. And also, speaking of this, we're looking at over 8,000 people, 8,000 either executive orders, commutations, pardons, or clemencies for a president. 8,000. That's the Biden administration. But we'll say this. I was trying to look up executive orders from the Biden administration total, basically. And all I could see come up over and over and over and over and over again, and this one comes from ABC News, Trump's record-breaking day one executive actions prompt legal challenges. So now, instead of going after or reporting on the fact that Biden had 8,000 different, once again, pardon, executive action, we're doubling down on Trump doing more in one day than any other president in history. So you guys take it from there. You want to talk about something with the inauguration? You want to talk about something about media doubling down? And I don't think there's going to be anything less relentless than what we've seen in the past with the Trump administration and not reporting appropriately, in my opinion, and being very biased. All of it. So what do you guys got? Who wants to pick it up?
Yeah, there's a lot going on right now, and it's going to be this way until Chad said it beautifully earlier, right? Trump is the new shiny toy, and he gives you a lot to look at.
I think purposefully.
100% he's on the rampage right now. And he's sent a lot of signals to a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons. And I think when you look at the law stuff that happened to him and what happened with the legal system, when you look at the 51 people who signed off on that laptop, when you look at all of these things that have happened, and when you look at the industrial war complex and him trying to pull us out of wars and the fight that he got in that sector and why, there's just so many things going on. When you look at him signing executive orders, doing what he does, like he's in a wrestling match and throwing pins to the crowd, giving it back to the people. There's a lot of messaging there, and people are appreciating it. A lot of people, not everybody. But when I look at polls and I look at quick synopsis, are you glad that Trump is back? And people don't have to tell you like in the open like this. And you look at 1 million people, 1.2 million people took a survey that I looked at online, and it was 87% positive on yes and no, because it shows you after you click it what your number added to and then you see the amount of people, but you can't see it until you click it. And that's a lot of people for the number to be that high. I think there's a lot of people grateful that there's some stuff going on at the border now. And I know there's a lot of people going to get hurt too, and that's hard. And I think the view that you watch this through, or the lens that you choose to live your life, is how you're going to format this. And people are falling to the channels that feed them what they want to hear, whether you're on the left or the right.
Confirmation bias again.
100%. And I like to hear things that I like too, right? But you have to also understand that that's what's happening and zoom out and get a hold of yourself in the bigger picture. That pardoning, Lance, at the last hour there, I think his signaling made some people nervous. I don't know who they are or what they did or what they're not doing, but it just doesn't look good. It looks horrible. And the fact that they were saying and that he was going to do the same thing and he didn't when he was on his way out tells you a lot about what's really happening with some of the manipulation. And I will tell you, today I woke up and I saw Elon Musk giving a Hitler salute. And then I saw Trump and Elon side by side, both the same day, giving Hitler salutes. and I thought, man, Elon, why are you playing like that? Like, my first instinct this morning was, you can't be playing like that right now. Like, please, not right now. I know he's a jokester and he's a smart butt and all that. But then I went and watched what he did and how it went down, and even that he said, I love you, and he's kind of throwing his heart out, the way he did it in this gesture. And then you look at what certain groups are spinning it, and then you go to something like, you go to vtnews.ai, and you watch the channels that are reporting on that and who's pushing that out there, and it shows you, and it's just like, stop it. Yeah, and this is the death of that group.
Yeah.
That type of group.
I agree.
They're totally stomping themselves out after they've already killed themselves. And there's people like me that wouldn't have taken that 5 minutes and been upset with what Elon did. Because I'm thinking he's messing around in an inappropriate way because of the rhetoric. And not only did he not do that, he's got people like me going, man, they're not going to come off of it until they're gone.
Well, and here's the thing. Trust matters. See, this is the thing that's been forgotten by what I call the big mainstream media, television, really, honestly. And in some journalists, but I would say more in this opinionated talk style of deliverance of news to people or information to people. Once you lose the trust, you got nothing. You got nothing. And to be honest, Chad, locally, I mean, I'm going to tell you, that's why I'm a big fan of the Kansan. That's why I'm a big fan of you.
Let me lay something out before we get deeper into that.
In that.
But Chad and Lance, you've heard about the person who cries wolf, right? Here's the issue I see as a layman person, just an everyday guy. After this morning, and I'm already geared up to not believe certain things I see. There's things that I need to see that I'm not able to see because they've done so much of that. That don't help me question the things I need to be questioning because I'm totally discounting everything they say now. So if they did bring something that's legit to me, I'm skeptical from the go. And I can't see it for what it is because they've messed it up so bad.
And I would agree.
That's where I'm at.
And they're taking the rest of us down with them.
And I'm pretty.
I am
pretty average in almost everything I do. I have a few things that I've got gifts in, a few little things, but most of my life, most of my way I perceive things, it's going to be like most people. I'm that 80% person, right? I'm in the middle for most things as far as how I experience life. And I'm telling you, if I feel this way, I trust my gut that I'm an average person. There's a big chunk of people that are feeling way, and that's sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's how we have to
here's
live right
this,
now.
Chad. I'm going to throw this in your lap. Okay, executive orders going out, executive orders coming in, and I know that we were talking about some of the executive orders that Trump has done so far, and you're really in favor of some of the ones that he's done, and then other ones you really question. But is the pardoning of all of the individuals that could have been complicit in nefarious purposes with the Biden regime any better than pardoning every single person that had anything to do with January 6th?
No. I got nothing else to say. I mean, seriously. No. That said, you know what I'm most pissed off about? They pardoned people who violently attacked our Capitol. I'm sorry. There's no way to parse what happened that day.
Yeah, there's some people that did, but
Yes.
there's some people that were in there with no charges.
Yes.
That didn't
Correct.
do anything.
And I'm fine with those people getting pardons. I am not fine with somebody who beat the hell out of a police officer.
Who is that person?
Do
they have
They're
one?
on video, yes, and they actually pled guilty in a court of law to it.
Well, I
And
haven't seen the
he's getting a
videos.
pardon.
I haven't seen the videos.
So you're saying out of the however many hundreds,
Like
maybe
400 or 500,
maybe
something like
you've
that.
got.
I got to look at it.
It was like 1,600, I thought.
okay. I
There's
got to
15.
look.
There's 1,500 pardons.
Yeah.
So that's how many people were in prison,
Or
and
the-
how many of them there with no charges? Do we
no,
know any of
no,
that?
no,
Not in prison. Not in prison.
Or
but
in jail.
It
Waiting.
had some
There were
charges or
1,500
something.
people pardoned.
Yes.
And how many of them didn't have charges yet?
Don't know.
A lot of them, though, from what I understand.
And that's possible too, because then we're in a situation.
This is where
we'll
it got
pardon-
to where they're
Yes.
starting to use the word hostages and all, because
Yes.
they're like,
Yes.
dude, this is America. Like, at least tell me what I'm charged with, and they didn't have answers.
And there might
it's
have
a
been-
lot of them.
and truth be told, there might
and
have
I
been
know there's
50
going to be some knuckleheads in there, and
Yes.
and I agree with you, Chad. But at some point, let's go back to the original crime of pulling all these people in. Some of them were just walking around. They're real motivated to hit up these people.
Well, but, and here's the truth that people do not want to hear.
Send it.
If you were in the Capitol that day and you were not a member of Congress, not a member of the Capitol Police, if you were a tourist, you were in a building that was closed, you were trespassing.
So we can say the same thing about everybody that came into this country without permission, correct?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm good with that then.
Well, and then-
we can meet
and-
there. I'm
and
good with
even
that.
then we
And
talk
not that I
about-
dislike everybody that's come here.
It's the letter of the
That
law.
is the
Yeah.
law is the law. If we're going to play the laws, we've got to play it all the way across the board, not
So-
just when it's convenient
but-
for the things we believe in.
Here's why I say that. Spare me your language that they're hostages. Okay? They're under investigation. And it may be for something as benign as trespassing. But understand that trespassing, oh my goodness, that's a felony. If you just trespass on your neighbor's property, it's a felony. If you trespass on someone's property and they think that you are going to try and do you harm, I said that all wrong.
Yeah, I was gonna say, trespassing's a
if I
misdemeanor.
trespass on Lance's property
Yeah.
and Lance thinks I am there to do him harm, any harm, he can blow my ever living head off.
In Kansas, you can do that.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
we can.
I got a good stove.
Okay.
Now you don't want to do this legally, Andy.
It's now
legally,
it's on record,
Yeah,
but
yeah. So like
You're going to
they're in
have
my
a,
pond. Fish are eating them.
you're going to have a
Entertainment
really
purposes
hard
only.
time. You're going to have a really
I'll
hard
call the
time in
sheriff's
court.
office.
I'm just saying, you're going to have a really hard time in court
After this,
dealing with the fact that
I
you
was
blew
joking,
somebody's
guys.
head
Come
off.
you are, but you have the right to defend yourself.
But you
given
have
the
they have the
situation.
right to defend.
Yeah.
Trespassing comes with a lot of stuff attached to it. So it's not benign,
okay.
okay? And it is a crime that needs to be investigated.
So I struggle with that because I know people that are in this country not legally, and I'm glad they're here. And I wish there was a better path and a way forward for several of them that I know personally. And then I know people that have come here illegally that I don't think I know should not be here, and they scare me. All right, so because I know the hearts of them too, and you got different types, but they are trespassing.
Yeah.
They are in a country illegally without permission, and that's hard conversations. My bigger conversation here is we have to, as people, make sure that we're not isolating these conversations for the things that we want, because we are doing a lot of that.
Right.
We are all sticking preferences and principles in different boxes according to what we feel on that situation.
Hypocrisy is thick.
And so I wasn't thinking about the trespassing thing for January 6th at all till right now, which is an interesting argument that I'll take in. So you help me today process it a little differently, because I'm going to be watching this for the next 6 months, because I'm not going to have my true feelings for a while.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that some of these people that were violent towards law enforcement will have consequence.
They were pardoned.
They were pardoned. See, and that's the interesting thing.
That's where I have a huge problem on this.
And see, I kind of understand where
4
Chad's
years in
coming
jail
from.
is probably decent, depending on how bad those assaults were. Just saying.
Well, you know, and maybe, and I'll say
4
this.
years, man, without...
It's for me, it comes back to this.
And I was told that people were saying they were guilty, and this is going to come out in the next 6 months, because they felt like they had to. So I don't know what the evidence matches up with the people that were saying they were getting scared.
Yeah.
If you don't say you're guilty, you're getting 20. So say you're guilty to get whatever.
Probation.
It's the whole plea bargain thing.
And that's
right?
messed up too, though.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's basically a plea bargain.
We've got to figure this out. It's going to work itself out over time, because these stories will come out.
Yeah.
Right or wrong or indifferent. The cream's going to eventually rise it, because there's going to be manipulation. Like right now, there's a lot going on, and they're going to start pulling on heartstrings and showing pictures of certain things, and that this is all set up, and he's an authoritarian leader, and he's going to use I believe a piece of the pardons from Biden's side was to say, you see, now he was going to come after people and use the government and the FBI against us. So just like what happened to him. Yes. And so now this is a preemptive way of saying this is why we pardon him, because that's what he's going to do. Yeah. And then when Kesh starts going after some of these investigations that need to be walked out, he's going to see he's coming after us. It's like the evidence is going to have to prove it. And I hope everybody plays to the law. The rules that we have established, play the game the right way. And if you can convict people off of evidence through the courts the right way, not with judges that are leaning one way or the other and making crazy assessments of property that they never had the right to make, and all these other crazy things, or saying somebody has 36 felonies for checks that they wrote because there was 36 checks and the signatures on those checks are his signatures, not realizing the ins and outs of the back end of that whole deal, just to make it sound bad. And it was what it was. But every executive company, Fortune 150 company, has non-disclosure agreements they sign with people for the reasons that Trump did it, what he did with Stormy Daniels, just to be clear. Every corporation, big corporation, at some level has had they have those in their files. That stuff happens. It's not okay, but it happens. And somebody didn't abide by that. Stormy Daniels came out with it publicly, and she does have to pay that back because she violated the agreement that she signed, right? But at the end of the day, those felonies are checks. I don't think people know that. Most people, like less than 5%. That's wild to me.
But then we're coming back to media bias. Okay, so here's this. Just
give us the facts and let us shake out what we think is right.
That is what journalism is supposed to be, in my opinion. Journalism is supposed to be, to the best of their ability, factual information without bias.
I'm going to give Chad this too, though, on the journalist side, because he's a real one, right? Because I'm not. How can you dig into some of these things the way you want to, the way you could if you had more time and a better team? But we're not funding it. And that's where the risk lies. People are overworked and underserving because they have to get their needs met, and they have to get things out for their subscribers. And the media dollars are shrinking, and the quality of journalism has to follow the hours that they have to report on so many things. How are we able to have teams should have come behind local journalists that come here when there's a tragedy here and figure out what our message is through our local journalists? That's not what we're doing anymore. We're stepping on each other, beating each other up, creating our own narratives, depending on what the political narrative is. And a lot of people, it's easy to fall into that.
So the way things are for guys like me in newsrooms like mine, 90% of what you see is what I can get done in 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's the reality of it. Thank you for being transparent. It's happening everywhere.
Okay. So I've got people, because they know it's that time of year, that are going, hey, you going to enter some stuff into Kansas Press Association this year? I haven't entered in 5, 6, 7 years. I just haven't bothered. Why? Ask yourself why. And there was somebody that brought it up just this week that I said, no, probably not. And they said, why not? And I looked right at them. And I said, because 90% of what I do, I ask myself, can I get this done in 10 minutes? If I can't get it done in 10 minutes, it gets sat over here, and I go do something that I can get done in 10 minutes. That's the reality. Okay? In 2019, I won a really, really big award.
It wasn't about water rates, was it? I was gonna say I didn't see anything about an award.
The award,
What a major award!
Yeah. I did.
Or what is it?
I co-wrote a story with Kelly Breckenridge, and it was named one of the 20 most impactful news stories of the year in the United States. Think about that.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. And if you go back, when I went back and looked at the other stuff that was on that list, to say we were the smallest publication on the list is an understatement. And we were the smallest town on the list. I mean, it's kind of a big deal. And I didn't go looking for this. It's not like I go like, hey, here's a contest, let's enter. They found us. They gave it to us. That was a story that I could not have. There's no way that could be done in 10 minutes. You, as a Board of Education member, need to know what that story was. That story was published in a special section, and it was published for the anniversary of Brown versus the Board of Education. And I peeled back Newton USD 373, and I looked at the racial makeup of the teaching staff and the administrative staff, and I compared that to the racial makeup of our student body, and I found out we have a little problem. That at the time, 60% of our student body were people of color. 2% of our teaching staff was. 1.5% of our administrative staff was. And the cold, hard truth about what that can lead to is that while 60% of our student body at the high school were people of color, 90% of our expulsions were people of color. So that was a big story. How do you do a story like that? Well, at the time I had a staff. So we cut it in half. Kelly did half, I did half. And the other is, you got to do it every day. You got to be on it every day, every day, every day, every day. So I'm still looking around the room going, what can I do in 10 minutes to take the pressure off my people? But I'm also, what can I do on this today? That's all gone because we don't have people. Gone. And Eric Thomas, who is a semi-regular columnist for the Kansas Reflector, and yes, the Kansas Reflector is a very liberal publication. Okay?
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
They came after me, I think, once or twice.
Well,
It's all
I'd be
good.
proud to be
I mean, seriously.
I'm not worried about
that.
Yeah.
but he's a call, and he is a
They used some interesting
he's a
quotes
jur-
for me about banning books or something like
yeah.
that.
You're a
He's a
book banner?
journalist. He's a journalism professor somewhere here in the state of Kansas. My brain doesn't tell me where right now. Wrote a column here a little bit ago, and he asked a very interesting question. And he asked this question of his student body, and he had a number of questions that he was asking. No one offered an answer to the most interesting question on his list. And here it is. Can local journalism survive if no one's willing to pay for it? Folks, my kids got to eat. So the answer is no.
Right.
Well, and if you want local journalism and you want somebody covering local issues, local things about our local community, then the only way that's going to happen is if you subscribe to a local paper. Otherwise, all you're going to get is the fodder that they have to offer you from the top down, and I'm not a fan of that. So,
You know, I can fill the Newton Kansan up pretty much every day with the Kansas News Service and the Kansas Reflector and maybe the Kansas Beacon, because they don't produce as much as I would like. I could fill the whole thing up with that. Or someone hired to do my job, cheaper than me, can do that.
copy
I would
and
love to
paste.
debate.
They can do it,
Those
but nobody's going to want it.
for Newton. I would love to have time to have a debate about the end goals of that in like male versus female teachers, and I mean we can really get into a lot of stuff on that one because I see the world a lot different, I guess, in some of those categories and the way we fold those things out.
The numbers have changed since that story has been run.
Yeah, but I would
But that's
hate to
what the
run a
numbers
system off of just like we need to hire more of this ethnic group just because of this. Like as long as there's qualifications met and there's performing just as well as everybody else, and
Well,
they're
and
willing
see,
to go through the
one of
college
the-
to get
one
the
of the things
degrees
that we
and live
did
here,
do-
and everything else has to go. Because you look at population in this area in general, and there's mostly white people. So you're naturally going to have more white people in these positions. It's not like we're in San Antonio where if you go there, you're going to flip that scale pretty hardcore.
Well, and it runs deeper than that, Andy. One of the things that was covered in that piece, you can keep in mind, when I turned this in, it was for a special section, and she called me within 5 minutes and said, I don't know what we're going to do. You're going to fill the entire section with this one piece. And I said, it's the most important thing I've ever written, so okay. I mean, that's on you. Go tell your ad people to sell more ads so you can pump your paycheck count up. But one of the things that came out in there was that there's not people of color at that time. There were not people of color enrolled in education programs at the college level to come out and be teachers.
Yep.
So there you go.
Amazing how history.
I mean, I went to talk to Victoria Adame. There's a name. If you don't know, you need to know. And she is a person of color who grew up in Newton, graduated from Newton schools, and later came back as a teacher, became a principal. And when I caught up to her for that story, she was out of the district then and working for a private school. But bottom line, there were not very many Vickies.
So when if I was in an education program and you started using the word Latinx as the term that they use in those groups in that system, and I asked you one time not to do that, and you kept doing it, and you tried to start convincing me on why I should do it, I'm gone. There's some of that in there too. I guarantee you.
Yeah. All right, guys.
There's all kinds of reasons.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Yes, and we've
And it's the same people complaining about why we're not there is the one making us not want to be there.
Yeah.
But the
Drives me
point that
crazy.
the point that I wanted to make in all of that is that those kinds of things don't get done right now because we just I'm one man.
Yeah.
I'm
It's a lot
one
of work, man. It's a lot of work.
When my sports guy goes on vacation, it gets even worse. Because I got to go spend 6 hours at a baseball game on a Wednesday night. In addition to everything else I'm doing.
Are you ever
One
there
man.
pounding out stuff while you're at the game, picking up what you can? Yes, right? Because you do that at I mean, just to be frank, I see you, you're always working at the meeting because you're probably trying to fill gaps. I know you're gathering information too and making notes, but you're probably pounding out. I don't know if that's even something we can talk about.
Well,
but you always have to be going. That's a lot of work.
At a county commission, city commission, and board of education, what happens is this year is over here, and it's going, okay, is this something I need to write about? Is this something I need to rewrite about? This, and the rest of me is here going, okay, I got to get this brief on the RSVP dinner done.
Yeah, that's what I would be doing. I mean, that's the only way you could do it. Right.
Multitask.
Yeah, always.
And
talk about burning it.
And post COVID, you guys, I'm telling you, post COVID, number one, my brain doesn't work as well as it did before COVID. And number two, y'all are videotaping everything. And so my brain is, do I need to write about this? Do I need to write it? Okay, do I need to write about this now? Or can I watch it tomorrow morning at 6 a.m.?
Right.
You'd be amazed how many times 6 a.m. rules the day.
Yeah.
Just got a cup of coffee and watched it and took down what you had to.
Go home, sleep for about 3 hours, get going.
Wow.
All right, guys. Okay.
Sorry,
Okay.
we went long,
We got
didn't
plenty to
That's all
talk
right.
about. Yeah. Well, just what's your guys' final words this week?
I think I've laid out a lot this week, so I don't know that I need to throw a final word onto anything. Other than, I know it's going to surprise people to hear me say it, but yes, there were some executive orders that came out on day one that I am over the moon excited about and happy came out.
We'll have to talk
There are
about
also
that,
some that I really disagree with, but
we ought to wait till next week just to dive a little bit more into the.
So here's my
executive
final
orders.
word. Here's my final word on that. That's what makes me different than the people you're watching on CNN, Fox News, OWN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS.
NBC,
That's what makes me
CNBC.
different because I'm willing to sit here and say, hey, good job, buddy. And not just spend my whole time ripping and ripping and ripping.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Andy?
Let's freaking go.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. That's your final word?
Yep.
Let's get down and
Let's
dirty with
freaking
it.
go.
I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to this episode of HC Talk. I suppose my final word is don't allow for ideology to cloud your critical thinking skills. We'll catch you next week, everybody.